Welcome to the deep dive.
Where we really unpack the details behind the headlines.
Exactly.
Oh.
We dig into the facts, the surprising connections and stories that, well, really matter. And today, we're delving into something quite chilling. A secret that was hiding, remarkably, right in the heart of Mumbai's suburbs.
And not really hiding in a way. It was almost operating in plain sight.
That's the truly bizarre part. Not some hidden layer, but a network right there.
Yeah, we're talking with the Mumbai Baby Factory, a name that sounds awful, and frankly, the reality was it was a surrogacy syndicate.
But more than that, really.
Yeah.
An infant trafficking ring.
At its core, yes, systematic trafficking.
And the alleged mastermind behind it all. A woman named Rakhi Babre, 38 years old.
And the scale. It's just staggering when you hear the numbers.
But at least 18 infants. 18 babies trafficked through her scheme in just 2 years.
It's hard to even process that. Tiny lives treated like commodities.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to peel back all those layers, understand what happened, yes, but also why.
Right. We need to look at the whole picture, the collusion between, affluent buyers, maybe desperate buyers.
Unscrupulous doctors, clinic staff.
And the poorest, most vulnerable mothers imaginable. It's a really tragic mix.
We're going to trace the timeline, show you exactly how this came crashing down piece by piece.
Introduce the key figures, the victims. Their stories need to be heard.
And explain how India's infertility industry, which was booming, actually kind of set the stage for these crimes.
It's a complex web. By the end, you'll have a much clearer picture of this dark side of the global baby trade.
Our aim, as always, is to give you that deep understanding, find those aha moments, but without getting lost in jargon. Let's dive in.
Okay, so to really get the Mumbai Baby Factory story, we have to step back a bit. Look at the bigger picture of surrogacy in India around that time.
Right. The context is key here.
Exactly. So back in 2002, India did something pretty groundbreaking. It legalized commercial surrogacy.
And that decision had huge consequences, didn't it?
Oh, massive. It basically transformed India almost overnight into this global hub for surrogacy. People were coming from all over the world.
Cheaper, easier than in their home countries, I imagine.
That was the main draw, yeah. Affordability and, at the time, less restrictive regulations compared to, say, the US or Europe.
So specific cities became known for this. You mentioned Anand in Mumbai earlier.
Right. Clinics popped up everywhere, but especially in places like Anand. In Gujarat, it got nicknamed the surrogacy capital, and Mumbai, of course, with its huge medical infrastructure.
Catering to both foreigners and Indians.
Yes, a big domestic market, too. Lots of Indian couples struggling with infertility saw this as an option.
And the scale, you said it exploded.
It really did. Between roughly 2011 and 2014, estimates put the whole sector at somewhere between 300 to 400 million US dollars annually.
Wow. That's a serious industry.
A massive economic engine, really, but, largely unregulated, ethically very complex.
And that kind of rapid, unchecked growth,
Yeah.
it almost always leads to problems, doesn't it? Red flags must have started appearing.
Pretty quickly, yes. The media started digging. Investigative outlets like NDTV did some early exposés.
What were they finding?
Really disturbing stuff. Undercover reports showed infants basically being sold for cash. Minimal paperwork, sometimes none at all. Just cash for a baby.
So, clear warnings that things were going wrong.
Glaring warnings. And it wasn't just journalists. Activists were raising alarms, too.
About the exploitation of the women, the surrogates.
Exactly. They were warning about how vulnerable women in deep poverty, could be coerced. Is it really informed consent if you're desperate for money?
That ethical dilemma. Using their bodies essentially as vessels.
That was the argument. The fear was that the money, which might seem huge to someone in poverty, could blind them to the risks, the emotional toll.
So with all this noise, the government eventually had to step in. 2015 was the key year.
Yes, 2015 was the turning point. The government reacted partly because of the abuses, partly because of the negative image internationally, this idea of poor Indian women renting their wombs.
What did they do?
They effectively banned surrogacy for foreign couples. New guidelines came out, making it almost impossible for non-Indians to hire Indian surrogates.
Okay, so that stopped the international surrogacy tourism pretty much dead in its tracks.
Overnight, yeah. It was a huge shift.
But did it stop the exploitation? Or does it just change it?
That's the crucial and tragic question. Critics immediately warned this would just drive the whole thing underground.
Makes sense. You don't just eliminate a multi-million-dollar market by banning one part of it.
Exactly. It didn't disappear. It just went into the shadows. became clandestine.
Setting the stage
For exactly the kind of illicit criminal operations like the Mumbai baby factory, the ban, maybe unintentionally, created the perfect environment for them to thrive.
Okay, so the industry goes underground after the 2015 ban. It couldn't stay hidden forever, though. Police must have started catching on.
They did. Awareness was growing, and law enforcement began to act more decisively. Not just reports anymore, but actual raids and charges.
When did the first major busts happen?
March 2017, that was a significant one. Mumbai police charged 6 people, mostly women, actually, with selling babies.
And they rescued infants in that raid.
Yes, 5 babies were rescued then. It was a real confirmation of what people feared: the underground market was active and babies were being traded.
A grim confirmation. But that was just the beginning, wasn't it? The really big one, the Mumbai baby factory ring, came later.
Much bigger, yeah. That breakthrough came later in 2017, specifically September 25th.
Who cracked it?
The Thane Crime Branch. They're a specialized unit, and after weeks of intelligence work, surveillance, they uncovered Rocky Babri's operation.
And the raid itself.
Swift. They arrested Babri and 8 of her accomplices right then and there.
But the details that came out afterwards, that's what really shocked everyone.
Absolutely. Police revealed this group had allegedly sold 18 infants. 18. All under 6 months old.
Over what period?
Just the previous 2 years. It was systematic.
And the price?
Around 5 lakh rupees each, which back then was roughly, $6,000 or $7,000 US?
Per child. This wasn't small time.
No, this was an organized, sophisticated criminal enterprise profiting hugely from this.
And these busts, they didn't just catch the ringleaders, right? They exposed the whole network.
That's key. They revealed these networks of agents operating right in the slums, targeting the most vulnerable women.
And reaching into clinics, too.
Yes, connections inside clinics, suggesting complicity within parts of the medical system itself. It was an ecosystem, really, connecting desperate women with desperate buyers.
And the police action didn't stop with Babri.
No, more rescues followed throughout late 2017. Different rings, showing this wasn't just one bad apple, it was more widespread.
Were the prices similar in those other rings?
Interestingly, reports suggested lower prices and some others maybe 70,000 to 150,000 rupees per infant.
So maybe 850 to 1,800 US dollars.
Roughly, yeah. It just showed there was an active, varied black market, lots of demand, sadly, and babies being treated purely as commodities.
So these huge busts in 2017, especially the Babri case, must have put enormous pressure on the government to pass stricter laws beyond just the foreign ban.
Absolutely. The political pressure was immense. And it led to the Surrogacy regulation bill, which had actually been kicking around since 2016.
It finally passed.
Yes, in December 2018. But not without a fight. There were fiery debates and protests right there in Parliament. It was, and still is, a very contentious issue.
And what did this new law actually do? How did it change things from the 2015 guidelines?
It was a much more comprehensive and radical shift. The biggest thing, it banned all commercial surrogacy. Completely.
So no payment at all for the surrogate?
Only reimbursement for medical expenses. The only type allowed now is altruistic surrogacy.
Meaning?
Meaning the surrogate receives no fee, and crucially, she has to be a close relative of the intending couple. Specifically defined as a near relative.
Wow, that's incredibly restrictive compared to the old system.
Hugely restrictive. A total departure. The act itself was officially enacted in January 2022, and then even stricter rules were added in 2024. The goal was clearly to stop the exploitation seen in cases like Babri's.
But did the law actually stop the illegal trade? The raids seem to have continued?
That's the problem. Passing a law is one thing, stopping the activity is another. Enforcement actions definitely continued, showing the underground market hadn't just vanished.
Like the 2021 Mumbai bust.
Right. January 2021, even before the 2022 Act was fully in force, police busted another ring. This one involved a nurse, agents in the slums, 9 suspects charged, 7 babies sold.
And that case highlighted the gender bias again, didn't it? The price difference.
It did, starkly. Girls reportedly went for around 70,000 rupees, boys for 150,000.
So double the price for a boy. Just shows how deep that societal preference runs, even in this criminal underworld.
Tragically, yes. It warps the market.
And the problem just kept going. Late 2024, another big case in Thane.
Yes, and this one was alarming because of the sheer number of people involved and the professional connections. 35 people implicated.
35.
Including doctors, agents, the works. They'd allegedly sold 14 children between 2022 and 2024. So operating after the new act was in place.
How are they operating then under the new law?
Arranging contract pregnancies, sometimes using IVF, sometimes other means, selling to elite clients, exploiting loopholes, or simply defying the law.
And it wasn't just sales, right? Other disturbing practices came to light too.
Yes, mid-2025, down in Telangana, police uncovered a fertility clinic in Hyderabad actually swapping newborns.
Swapping babies, that's horrific.
Unbelievable. Taking a baby from one couple, giving it to another. That led to the state government there setting up a special inspection panel to audit all the IVF centers. It showed the corruption could run really deep, even within supposedly legitimate clinics.
So where does that leave things now, legally speaking? Early 2025? It sounds like it's still very much an ongoing situation.
Very much so. Investigations are continuing. Court cases are slowly moving forward.
And the law itself is being challenged.
Yes, challenges are being heard in courts arguing that the strict rules, like the close relative requirement, are maybe too restrictive, maybe even unconstitutional.
Public debate is still raging.
Oh, definitely. It's incredibly heated. You have doctors, activists, childless couples, all arguing for different things.
And the victims, the mothers, the children.
Their voices are starting to be heard more now. Families, survivors. They're speaking out, demanding justice, demanding tighter enforcement. It's a long road, though.
Let's zoom in now on the syndicate itself, the Mumbai baby factory operation. And Rocky Babre, the alleged mastermind. What more do we know about her?
Well, she was 38, married, living in Vikhroli, a Mumbai suburb. Police identified her as the clear leader of that 2017 Thane ring.
And her cover was being a surrogacy counselor.
Exactly. That's how she presented herself. It allowed her to move within those circles, approach couples, seem legitimate. But underneath, police say, was this highly organized criminal operation.
What did her team look like? It wasn't just her.
No, far from it. It was extensive. She had recruiters out looking for vulnerable women. She had contacts inside IVF clinics crucial for the medical side and faking documents.
And the orphanage connection. That's deeply disturbing.
Incredibly so. Staff within at least one orphanage were allegedly part of her network, feeding her clients. It was a multi-pronged operation.
And how did she justify this? Did she see it as a crime?
According to police reports, she tried to frame it as Samaj Seva social service, claiming she was helping unwanted babies find homes.
But the police found evidence of significant profit.
Oh, yes. Financial records showed she made substantial amounts of money, lakhs of rupees. It completely contradicted the social service claim. This was business, criminal business.
And she boasted about it, selling 18 children without getting caught.
That boast to the police during interrogation revealed a chilling level of confidence, maybe even arrogance. She felt untouchable.
How did she exploit this system so effectively?
She preyed on the desperation of childless couples. She told police, "For married couples, there's no greater desire than becoming parents. This desire helped us." She understood the vulnerability, and she exploited the loopholes, the confusion in the laws before things tightened up.
What was her specific offer to clients?
It was audacious. A baby in a week. That was the promise. For 5 lakh rupees, around $7,000, plus an extra 2 lakh, maybe $2,500 for arranging the surrogate.
Just incredible. A transaction, plain and simple.
A highly lucrative, deeply exploitative transaction.
And the mothers. Who were they? These weren't willing participants in a fair deal.
No, absolutely not. They were victims, often from the poorest slums in Mumbai. Many were survivors of trauma, rape, abuse, or just wives drowning in debt, desperate for any cash.
They were targeted because they were vulnerable.
Precisely. Their desperation made them easy targets for manipulation.
Do we have specific examples of their situations?
The police uncovered heartbreaking stories. One was a 35-year-old widow. She sold her 6-month-old baby, a child conceived through rape by her own stepson, under Babre's direction.
It's just horrific, the levels of trauma involved.
Unimaginable. Another woman was coerced into donating eggs 13 times. 13 times, risking her health repeatedly.
And they were deceived about the money, the process.
Often, yes. Lured with promises of big sums, then pressured into giving up the baby, maybe not fully understanding the legalities or the finality of it.
And the money they actually received. A tiny fraction of what Babre charged.
A pittance. One insider said mothers might get a few thousand rupees, maybe enough for a few months' rent, while Babre and her agents pocketed lakhs. Hundreds of times more.
It shows the grotesque scale of the exploitation.
Human lives traded for massive profits by the traffickers.
Babre wasn't alone, though. She had this network of middlemen, accomplices.
Essential to the operation. Counselors to persuade the women, clinic staff for the medical side, the paperwork, and the orphanage workers.
That orphanage link again. How exactly did that work? bypassing legal adoption.
Dabra admitted having contacts inside. They would reportedly spot couples trying to adopt legally, a process that takes years in India, and steer them towards Babra's ring, offering a faster, illegal shortcut.
Cynical. And the recruiters scouring the slums.
Yes, the agents. They were the foot soldiers. Their job was literally to walk through poor neighborhoods, find pregnant women in dire straits, or mothers with newborns they couldn't keep, systematically finding the supply.
And the medical collusion was deep. Nurses, doctors.
It seems so. The 2021 Mumbai bust involved a nurse at a maternity hospital. They provided the cover, the quiet births off the books.
And the 2024 Thane case, specifically named doctors.
Yes, a fertility doctor, Sanjay Kandari, and a gynecologist were named as part of that 35-person network, allegedly arranging these contract pregnancies, sometimes through IVF, sometimes other means purely for profit, using their medical skills for crime.
Turning to the buyers.
Yeah.
Who were they? Mostly desperate couples.
Often, yes. Wealthy or middle-class families, desperate for a child, unwilling to wait years for legal adoption. That desperation made them vulnerable to these illegal offers.
But not just hopeful parents, right? Some babies ended up in much darker situations.
This is the truly chilling part. Police found evidence some infants from Babra's ring were handed over to criminal syndicates.
On what purpose?
For street-begging rings. Organized crime groups exploiting infants to elicit sympathy and money.
So the value chain was horrific. A few thousand rupees for the mother, then the baby sold up the chain, potentially into forced begging.
It's sickening. It shows the absolute commodification.
So the buyers ranged from couples bypassing the law to actual criminal gangs.
Exactly. The Mumbai Mirror reported many babies went to migrant couples wanting to raise them, but others went into darker networks, possibly flipping infants for profit. It was a broad spectrum.
There was that specific case where a woman sold a baby conceived through rape via Babre, and both she and the buyer were arrested.
Yes. That case highlighted how complex the lines of victimhood and culpability could be. It wasn't simple. Thane police are still trying to track down all the couples involved, trying to unravel every transaction. It's a huge task.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics. How did this racket actually operate day to day? The plain sight aspects is fascinating.
It's key to understanding why it persisted. They blended in, set up front offices in real clinics or near orphanages, posed as infertility consultants, NGO workers, things like that.
Relied on word of mouth.
Heavily. Discreet referrals brought in both clients and potential surrogates or mothers willing to sell. Let's break down the steps.
First, recruiting the mothers. Predatory, you said.
Absolutely. Targeting poor women in slums, luring them with cash promises, manipulating them psychologically, looking specifically for women pregnant out of wedlock or those who simply couldn't afford another child. Extreme vulnerability.
And they use scouts, people pretending to be helpers.
Yes, sometimes posing as NGO volunteers or marriage counselors. They'd identify potential women. Babre herself reportedly tricked one widow, convincing her giving up her baby was social service. Pure deception.
And the financial exploitation was extreme. That 5,000 rupees for the mother versus 5 lakh for Babre.
Horrifying. Maybe $60 versus 6 or 7,000. The profit margin built on human misery was just immense.
Then the clinic collusion and forged documents. This was crucial for the legitimacy.
Absolutely critical. Complicit doctors and staff handled the medical side, arranged the surrogacy, sometimes IVF, sometimes cruder methods, and managed the births quietly, off the record.
Ghost births, essentially.
Pretty much. And then, critically, they'd quickly get fake birth certificates made up with the buyers' names on them.
Giving the buyers a piece of paper that looked official.
Exactly. That NDTV sting back in 2012 showed just how easy it was. Reporters bought a 6-day-old baby from an orphanage, paid cash, got a bogus certificate. Baby's agents promised that quick turnaround a baby in a week because they had contacts who could rush through these fake documents.
And every deal was cash. No transfers, no records.
Strictly cash. Deliberate strategy. Untraceable. Often a bundled price. Maybe 2 lakh rupees for the pregnancy services, 5 lakh for the baby itself.
Prices varied, though, especially based on gender.
Yes, that 2021 ring showed boys fetching $150K, girls $70K. That sad reflection of son preference. Deals were fast. Basic ID, maybe forged, was enough sometimes. Babre's clients paid, took the baby home next day. No waiting, no legal adoption hurdles.
Some involved staged hospital stays.
Yes, a more sophisticated method. Surrogate delivers in a complicit clinic, looks like a normal birth, then she quietly hands over the baby to the buyers. No official transfer recorded, again bypassing all scrutiny.
How did they avoid detection for so long? It seemed so brazen.
Maintaining that facade of normalcy was key. Instructing the mothers, act normal, don't talk, never go to the police. Fear kept them silent.
Buyers played along too. No official paperwork.
Right. Buyers signed nothing, sometimes used fake IDs, pretended they were the biological parents. It was a conspiracy of silence and deception designed for plausible deniability.
Barbara's boast about selling 18 children without getting caught. It speaks volumes.
It really does. They exploited the loopholes, the confusion around surrogacy rules before the 2021 Act. There wasn't one clear law, just guidelines. Barbara knew the system's weaknesses and the buyer's desperation. As she said, this desire helped us.
And it wasn't always even surrogacy, right? Sometimes just direct sales disguised as adoption.
Yes, that NDTV investigation showed infants procured directly from poor families, then sold via an orphanage as an adoption. No medical procedures involved there, just a straight-up sale.
And Barbara tapped into orphanages directly, too.
Yes, had that clerk accomplice, who would intercept couples trying the legal route, which takes years, and redirect them to Barbara's instant baby service. Clients paid cash, bypassed checks, got a baby or a quick pregnancy.
So, summing it up, hide in plain sight, look like help, exploit the slow, confusing official system.
Exactly. Desperate parents, unwilling to wait 2-3 years for legal adoption, paid bribes for instant babies. Lack of clear regulation and high demand allowed these criminals to operate under the radar for far too long, until the complaints, the raids, the stings finally blew it open.
So once the rings were busted, what happened to the babies?
Yeah.
And the people who bought them? The aftermath must have been incredibly messy.
Deeply messy and often tragic. Many babies, it turned out, had gone to couples who genuinely wanted children but chose the illegal route.
The ones who couldn't or wouldn't wait for legal adoption.
Right. In 2017, police estimated dozens of relatively well-off families across Maharashtra had gotten babies this way within a week, totally outside the law, though many claimed they thought it was legitimate.
And these couples faced consequences, too.
Sometimes. That 2021 case Reuters reported on, they arrested not just the mothers, but also a man who had bought one of the babies. So buyers weren't always immune. When the babies were found, they were immediately taken into state custody. Became wards of the Child Welfare Committee, the CWC.
But then there was the darker side, babies sold to criminals, the begging mafia.
That was one of the most horrifying discoveries. Police reports indicated some babies from Baby's Ring were deliberately handed over to criminal syndicates, specifically for use in street begging rings.
Using infants to solicit money.
Exactly. Exploiting their vulnerability. It revealed that horrific value chain, a few thousand rupees for the parent, then the child sold on for much more, potentially into a life of forced begging. Just awful.
And the gender preference played out here, too. More demand for boys.
The Times of India reported on one ring where all 6 babies sold were boys, specifically bought by families who only had daughters. It directly shows how that societal desire for sons was fueling this specific illegal trade.
When the babies were rescued, where did they go immediately?
Straight to the CWC, then placed in state-run orphanages or with registered foster care agencies. The priority was immediate safety and care.
What about the adoptive couples? The ones who had raised these children, sometimes for months or years?
That created a legal and emotional nightmare. Some fought in court for custody, arguing they believed it was legal, or expressing deep regret but pleading their bond with the child. Very difficult cases.
And the psychological impact on the children, being removed from the only homes they knew.
Psychologists warned about significant trauma. Even if the placement was illegal, it was the only parental figures these children knew. The CWC tried to mitigate this with foster care, but the upheaval was immense.
Activists obviously supported rescuing the children, but the families who lost them, many were just ordinary people.
Some were, yes. Reports mentioned families working as domestic help, laborers. They had formed bonds. Their loss was real, even though the situation stemmed from an illegal act. It's complex.
What's the long-term picture for these children?
It's mixed. Some did eventually find permanent legal adoptive homes, but many others remain in a kind of limbo, unclaimed, or tied up in ongoing legal battles. Their status is unsettled.
And some of the original buyers campaigned to get the children back.
Yes, a 2019 report mentioned couples campaigning for reunification, highlighting those complex bonds again.
And the traffickers actually made legal adoption harder.
That was a perverse consequence. By taking children out of the system illegally, they reduced the pool available for legal adoption. This increased desperation among waiting parents, potentially driving more demand for illegal channels. A vicious cycle.
It really highlights the commodifications treated like goods.
Absolutely. Sellers bragging about handing over babies, buyers paying cash, no questions asked. The public reaction was outrage, mixed maybe with some empathy for the desperate parents, but overriding horror at the exploitation. A sense that this black market was monstrous.
These scandals, especially Mumbai, clearly had repercussions far beyond the specific cases. It forced a wider look at the system across India.
Definitely. Law enforcement everywhere took notice. It wasn't just a Mumbai issue. We saw similar things surface elsewhere, like that baby swapping case in Hyderabad in mid-2025, a different crime, but rooted in the same exploitation within the fertility industry.
And governments responded, audits, inspections.
Yes, Telangana formed that special committee to audit IVF clinics after the Hyderabad case. Maharashtra and Delhi started doing surprise checks. It was a move towards greater oversight, finally. Investigators also started mapping out interstate trafficking rings.
What about the legal charges? What did people like Babri actually face?
Very serious charges. Child trafficking, kidnapping, selling children, violations of the Juvenile Justice Act, the Indian Penal Code, significant felonies.
And that huge Thane case in 2024, 35 people.
Yes, formally charged in a massive 2,000-page report. Doctors, agents, mothers, accused of selling 14 babies. But justice is slow. Cases are ongoing, bail is often denied for key figures like Babri, but final convictions can take years.
And there were gaps in enforcement, buyers sometimes walking free.
That's a major point of concern. That Hyderabad case where the parents paid 35 lakh rupees, a huge amount, over $40,000, but weren't charged because they claim ignorance of the law, while the doctor and the mother who sold the baby were jailed. It highlights inconsistencies.
And the 2021 Surrogacy Act itself, meant to fix things, created its own problems.
That's the paradox. Critics, surrogates, activists, lawyers argued the total ban on commercial surrogacy punished poor women who relied on the income and just pushed the deals further underground, making them harder to track and police.
Lack of knowledge about the law being a loophole.
Exactly. And beyond that, the act's strictness is being challenged legally. Courts are hearing arguments that rules like only allowing close relatives as surrogates might violate constitutional rights, like the right to parenthood, mentioned by the Delhi High Court.
So it's legally complex, and enforcement agencies feel clinics are still bending the rules.
They complain many clinics continue illicit practices, partly due to ignorance, partly driven by the persistent demand from childless couples who feel they have no other options.
This sparked wider policy debates, calls for other regulations.
Yes, calls to finally implement the Assisted Reproductive Technology, or EAG regulation, properly. Stricter clinic licensing, better tracking systems, trying to build a safer, more transparent framework.
Action at the state level, too.
Maharashtra faced petitions to set up the district surrogacy boards required by the 2021 law. Nationally, the health ministry announced more online surveillance of clinics, trying to close loopholes.
And what about support for the victims? The women, the children?
Huge focus on that now. Calls for holistic support, counseling, rehabilitation. Many mothers return to poverty and stigma. One woman said she only realized the trap she was in after signing the papers. Just devastating.
NGOs petitioning for support.
Yes, for counseling for the women. And for the children, calls to fast-track legal adoption, provide psychosocial support. Some activists even argue the state should compensate mothers coerced into giving up children.
So the big takeaway is that laws aren't enough on their own.
Not without awareness, robust enforcement, and addressing the root causes. The crackdown showed how easily even medical procedures could mask this trade. It's forced India to confront how to really protect vulnerable families, not just pass laws about them.
Okay, let's dig into the why. What do the experts say about the root causes behind scandals like the Mumbai baby factory?
Well, there's broad agreement among legal scholars, fertility specialists, and sociologists that the outright ban on commercial surrogacy in India, while maybe well-intentioned, had some serious unintended consequences.
Specifically creating a black market.
Exactly. The 2021 Act put up so many barriers, the close relative rule, the long approval times, that it left couples with very few legal paths. As one specialist put it, it gave them few legal options.
Someone compared it to banning drugs, right? Just pushes it underground.
Yes. A lawyer involved with the bill made that analogy in time. Prohibition often fails in practice because the demand doesn't just vanish. It finds other illicit channels.
And did the law consider the women's perspective enough?
That's a major criticism. A former Supreme Court counsel argued the ban ignored that for many poor women, surrogacy, however complex, was a source of income, money used for family, debts, education. It wasn't always pure coercion. Sometimes it was a choice within very limited options.
So the conclusion is, without a safe, regulated legal pathway.
The desperation of childless couples and the poverty of vulnerable women creates this dangerous vacuum filled by criminals and traffickers.
Which leads directly to the issue of poverty and coercion. That seems central.
Absolutely central. NGOs and researchers consistently find that the overwhelming majority of surrogates and egg donors are driven by extreme financial need. Debt, medical bills, basic survival.
That quote from the surrogate in Gujarat. Who else comes to become a surrogate, if not poor people?
It cuts right to it. The lack of other viable economic options makes them susceptible.
And they were often cheated, promised money they didn't receive.
Al Jazeera reported cases like that. Women cheated out of half their promised fees by middlemen. And women's rights groups always warn, in extreme poverty, where's the line between choice and exploitation? Is consent truly free?
Some activists actually argued against the ban, saying regulation was better.
Yes, arguing that regulating and taxing the industry could have provided protections, contracts, healthcare, fair pay, rather than driving it underground where there are no protections at all. Controlled legalization versus prohibition.
Legal gaps and gender bias also play a role. The son preference.
Definitely. The strong societal preference for sons in parts of India drives demand for male infants, fueling the illegal market specifically for boys.
That finding that all 6 boys in one Mumbai ring went to families with only daughters.
A stark illustration. Experts call for stronger enforcement of child welfare laws and better support for legal adoption to try and reduce that specific demand.
There's also the call to respect women's agency, right? Not paint all surrogates purely as victims.
Yes, some scholars argue that while exploitation is undeniable and horrific, we shouldn't ignore that some women chose surrogacy as labor, as a rational economic decision within their constrained circumstances.
That surrogate protesting the ban. Banning never works. How will it work for something so human?
A powerful point. Suggests the focus should be on ethical practices, fair contracts, healthcare, genuine consent, not necessarily outright prohibition.
A UN-backed study suggested regulation could have worked.
It suggested India's large IVF sector, around 3,000 clinics then, could have safeguarded women with good regulation, but the oversight was just chronically weak. It wasn't implemented effectively.
So the expert view seems to be, this Mumbai case reflects systemic failures. Bad legal routes, deep poverty, weak regulation.
Exactly. And it forces India to rethink that balance between banning something and regulating it safely and ethically, especially making sure the voices of the most affected women are actually heard in the process.
These stories didn't stay quiet, did they?
Yeah.
The media coverage was intense and the public reaction was huge.
Oh, absolutely. It exploded. Major outlets, Mumbai Mirror, Times of India, NDTV, plus international agencies like Reuters, AFP, they were all over it. Front page exposés, deep investigations.
Mumbai Mirror even quoted Babry's boast about selling 18 children.
Yeah, printing her own chilling words brought the reality home to people in a very raw way.
And the coverage emphasized how close this was. Slums next to clinics.
Yes, the visuals were powerful, showing these operations weren't hidden away, but right there in the city fabric. It made it feel immediate, tangible.
Journalists also made connections to earlier baby factory stories, like the Anand Clinic.
Right, drawing parallels to the Akanksha Clinic, which had been controversial for international surrogacy years before. It showed this wasn't entirely new, even if the illegality was different.
And that infamous quote, vanilla white babies from burnt sienna wombs.
That phrase, originally from the Times of India and popularized by The Guardian in relation to international surrogacy, resurfaced and really ignited debate about the dehumanizing aspects of the trade.
Social media just amplified everything.
Instantly. Hashtags like hashtag Mumbai Baby Factory, hashtag surrogacy scam, hashtag human trafficking took off. Celebrities, regular citizens, everyone was condemning the exploitation, sharing the stories.
Petitions started circulating.
Yes. Online petitions demanding better protection for surrogates, tougher penalties for traffickers, systemic reforms. A lot of focus shifted to the mothers, calling them the real victims, trapped by poverty.
News channels jumped on it too. Debates.
Oh yeah, primetime debates. Should commercial surrogacy be re-legalized and regulated or clamped down harder? Experts debated whether the new act was actually working.
And that police quote got shared everywhere. Easier to buy a baby than adopt legally.
That resonated hugely. It captured the absurdity and tragedy of the situation, the illegal routes being faster than legal ones. It struck a nerve. Podcasts, documentaries started being planned. The public wanted to understand.
Were there actual protests?
Not huge street protests specifically for this case, but advocacy groups used the moment. Surrogate groups, NGOs held press conferences, lobbied politicians. They criticized the 2021 act for leaving surrogates vulnerable, banning their income source without alternatives.
Some former surrogates had protested bans before, right?
Yes, arguing they relied on the money. That perspective gained traction online. Child welfare NGOs also pushed for tighter monitoring of orphanages to stop those illegal bypass adoptions.
And all this noise put pressure on politicians.
Absolutely. The media coverage translated into political action. State governments in Maharashtra and Telangana committed to clinic audits. Opposition MPs questioned the delays in implementing related RT rules.
Recommendations for tracking cases online, publicizing offenders.
Yes, parliamentary committees discussed things like that, trying to increase transparency and deterrence.
It even went international. UN Human Rights Council.
Yes, India's ambassador was questioned about the ethical treatment of surrogates. It showed the global spotlight was on India over this.
So the overall public feeling was outrage, but complex.
I think so. Outrage at the exploitation, definitely. Maybe some empathy for the desperate parents. But horror at the deception, the commodification. A sense that this criminal black market was truly monstrous and needed to be stopped, alongside calls for practical reforms and much better surveillance. Hashtag outro.
So when you look back at the Mumbai baby factory story, it really highlights this heart-wrenching paradox, doesn't it?
It really does. You have profound desperation, meeting extreme vulnerability, colliding with crime, right in one of India's wealthiest, most modern cities.
And the cost. Those 18 infants we know about from Babe Ray's ring, countless other families affected, dreams just shattered or tainted by criminality.
It's a brutal reminder, and it's crucial to see it wasn't just one monster. It was symptomatic of bigger failures.
Systemic failures, yeah. Poverty, the demand for sons in some quarters, and infertility industry pushed into the shadows.
All creating this fertile ground for exploitation.
And the story isn't over. Authorities are still investigating, still promising crackdowns. But it leaves us with some really tough questions.
Big questions. Will the laws actually protect people? Or are they just rules on paper without the enforcement, the awareness, the societal change needed?
Can India find that balance, protecting the vulnerable, but also allowing people the reproductive choices they need, ethically and safely?
And ultimately, will there be real justice? For the women coerced, silenced, for the children whose lives started in this trade, will they find peace, find their place?
These aren't easy answers. They require ongoing attention, ongoing conversation.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive is giving you a clearer picture of the complexities.
Keep thinking about these issues. Join the conversation about rights, responsibilities, and how we protect the most vulnerable in our societies. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.